Chris, are the online folks hearing us better now? Thank you. Okay, let's come on back. Mark, thank you for those suggestions in the minutes. Kevin's making those changes. Do I have a motion to accept? So actually, quick reminder, when you make a motion and you second, if you could just state your name so it's easy for Kevin to capture that in the minutes, that would be appreciated. And do I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended? Thank you. Yes, another great reminder. Please make sure.
This is Dawn. I move that we accept the minutes.
Do I have a second? Do we have a second? Mark seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
Hold on, Online Land has a concern.
We had a question from online about the date of the next summer meeting. That's an agenda item. So.
Yes,
we'll get to that.
Tomorrow we will discuss the date change for the summer meeting. Great. So let's move on to an introduction of new members. And what we'd like to do is get to know any new ELC members. And so what I will do is ask that if you're a new member, in just a second, I'll have you raise your hand. We'll make sure you get a microphone. And we'd like you to just share a few things with us. What college you're from, of course your name, what college you're from, your position at the college, and share us anything else you might want to share. But give us at least one interesting fact about you. One interesting fact. So first, let's start. Do we have, and I believe we do we have any new members? We have 1, 2, 3. Great. And if maybe just go around the room in this direction.
2 from
counterclockwise. Make sure you have a mic. Introduce yourself, your college, your role, and at least one interesting fact about yourself.
My name is Matthias Solshausen. I'm the new e-learning coordinator right here. I succeeded Zach Wellhouse. And
Hey guys, if you can hear us, we cannot hear you anymore.
Is that better? Okay.
Yes.
One interesting fact about me, I've climbed Mount Adams and Mount Baker in the last couple of years, and I'm hoping to do Rainier either next year or in 2021.
Oh, very impressive. It's great to have you. Thank you for being here.
Hello, is that good now? All right, hi. My name is Heather Mayer, and I am the new Director of Educational Technology at Everett Community College. I've been at the job for less than 3 weeks now, so I have a lot to learn. I came from Portland Community College, where I've been teaching history for the last decade, and I was also the Teaching Learning Center coordinator of one of the PCC campuses. So an interesting thing about me is as a historian, I wrote a book that came out last year, and it's actually about Northwest history. It's about women and the industrial workers of the world, the Wobblies in the Pacific Northwest. So if you're interested in talking about that, I'm always happy to. It's lovely to meet you all. I don't have any with me, but, you know, always happy. Maybe next meeting.
Book signing next meeting is what we hear. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. I believe there's one on this side of the room, and then we'll jump online.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Justin Kornheisel. I'm the relatively new Canvas and Integrated Technologies Administrator at Olympic College. Thank you. Something interesting. I moved out here after a lifetime of living in New York, so it's kind of interesting change of scenery, but it's pretty great. I'm a homeboy.
Thanks for being here. Welcome to not only the ELC, but the Northwest. And I believe we have some new folks online as well, so I'll hand it over to our online folks, or if Chris, you want to try to call on them in some orderly fashion.
Actually, you can just talk now. Now is your chance, online folks.
Well, this is Dan Taylor at Centralia College. I am the new faculty director of teaching and learning.
I apparently have to work on the audio output angle. Give me a sec. It is coming out. Is it just coming out here? Well, that's okay. So we're gonna have someone online who wants to speak. We'll have to unmute the in-room computer. Oh. And then I'll turn this mic down.
Can you hear me?
They're working on the sound volume, Dan.
Okay, my name is Dan Taylor. I am the faculty director of teaching and learning at Centralia College. So I've only been working here, I've only been working in this position since September. I have been working at Chair-ChairElect College for over 16 years now. And well, I guess I'll go with this. An interesting fact about myself is after 50 years of thinking I was an only child, I found I have an older half-brother. Oh, and also here we have another new member, Sarah Mickle.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Mickle, and I am the semi-new e-learning support tech here at Centralia College. I replaced Erin Cox August 1st, so I was just in the position for like a week before the summer ELC meeting, so I missed it. Let's see, an interesting thing about me, I'm pretty boring, but I've been told I make some of the best chocolate chip cookies people have ever had, and I consider that very interesting.
Are you ready for me?
Okay, we caught it. It was Dan. Welcome, Dan. Sorry, I missed your name. Do we have any other new folks online?
Yeah, Whitney.
Great, take it away.
All right, I am Whitney Boswell. I have been an instructional designer for about 7 years, most recently from City University of Seattle, and now I am at Green River College and role as instructional designer. And one interesting fact about me is I play 5 instruments, although 3 of them are a little bit rusty at this point.
Wow, impressive. 5 instruments. What are they?
The flute, the piano, the alto, saxophone, clarinet, and the oboe.
You can put on a whole show yourself.
If only I had more than one mouth.
Thank you for being here online. Do we have any other members online, new members online? Great. Thank you to the new folks for joining us. I kind of hate but also love to boast on our behalf. I've been to a few different council and commissions meetings, and I've always been particularly impressed by this group. I find that it's a hardworking group, a real collaborative group, and we get things done. We rely on each other heavily. So I think you'll find that this group is a valuable use of your time and a great resource to you. Let's move on to the next item, college updates. If you'll recall, or if you weren't at the last meeting, we've tweaked this slightly so it doesn't quite take as much time. What we're looking for is everyone to have filled out the form prior to arrival. But what we're looking for is some volunteers to share some significant updates for their colleges. And this morning, before I left to come here, I used the Google random number generator to select a few colleges to share updates with us, even if they don't volunteer. So let's begin by taking volunteers. Who has some updates they'd like to share with us? Yeah, great.
So this is Kevin with Seattle Central, and we just had our 7-year accreditation visit. eLearning is not a part of the standards. They still met with us, and after seeing how we make decisions in our department with data in front of the whole college, gave us a commendation on and said that we serve as a model for the entire college on how to do assessments. So we were really proud of that, and I'm really proud of my team for all the work that they've done in that area. So there you go.
Nice. Well done.
Okay, I just have one thing that's leaping to my mind. I'm sure I could come up with several things as usual, but the big one that I wanted to share is that I've discussed in the past opening up the RSI 101 course to make it available for all the folks in the ELC and anybody else in the state who is interested in checking that out. And so that is ready. So if you are interested in participating in that session, we're actually going to start that next week. I know that's a little bit short notice. But also if you don't pass the course, then nobody's going to come after you. So if you're interested in that, feel free to just come up and let me know or send me an email. Send an email to elearning@ghc.edu or however else. Or if you have somebody else at your college that you think would be a good person to participate in the session, then let me know that also.
Can you say the email one more time for our online folks?
Yeah, eLearning@ghc.edu.
Hey guys.
Thank you.
Hey, for that mic, whatever one was just being used is the one that's super garbly.
Okay, thank you. Any other volunteers? Yes, Christy.
We added on a new design software tool called City Labs that as one of the uses, as our marketing team was looking at making the website more accessible, at Olympic, there was part of the culture that most faculty had an instructor profile page publicly on the website, but they were completely inaccessible. And faculty were really disappointed to find out that they were going to go away. So Kathy came up with a great idea to make them publicly viewable Canvas pages. And then we got this City Labs tool that I put just one screenshot in the 1, 2, 3, 4. It provides multiple ways that to ease faculty in their design, but also Justin created some templates for the faculty, and it's with our school approved colors and logos, and it matches all the style guides. It does a lot of fancy things, but it's guaranteed that every single thing you do with it is accessible, and it has tons of warnings for you that'll say this contrast needs to be better, and like won't approve you going forward. It's a really, really cool tool. We're also passionate about sharing. One of the other cool things about the tool is if you share something in the comments, it will look like we designed it in Canvas without the tool. But if your school decides to embrace it, and I know one other school is looking at it already, if you downloaded what we shared in Commons and you had design tools, it would change it to your preferred colors and style and logo without you having to do any additional work, which I think is really cool. We have a cool new thing about accessibility is as our colleges look to have more equity by having a shared governance process for budgeting, we realized that it actually became inequitable for accessibility needs to have to compete through that shared governance process. So in the next go around on budget, there's a separate amount of funds that's earmarked for if we are out of compliance somewhere with state or federal law, so that the accessibility needs can go straight to the executive team for approval without having to compete for things that would not be as high of a priority as accessibility. And lots of OER requests coming in just this summer. You'll see the list of courses has such an impact that it'll save students of $500,000 a year depending on enrollment. But we're also being very mindful. None of these projects were the faculty just swapping out the readings. They had a lot of other deliverables like mapping the outcomes to the assessment, reviewing the blooms, like if it says create and the assessment's a quiz, that's out of alignment. So there's a lot of extra design work that went into just making a better course as they worked on the project. It's fun stuff.
Quick question. Did you provide faculty training on how to use Canvas as a website? Did eLearning do that?
What we've been doing so far is providing the templates and individualized supports. We will have workshops coming because one of the other uses of this tool is large divisions like nursing and our bachelor programs, like our film bachelors and others, are wanting to use this to have a branded look to their courses. So the student moving from the associate's degree into the bachelor degree would feel like they had progressed into something else.
We're doing a similar project. Our website was redesigned about 1.5 years ago, and it's pretty accessible, but we have the same problem. Faculty web pages are not. We're trying to basically do what you just said. That's where the question comes from. Thanks. The question was, did you have to pay a fee for it?
For City Labs? Yes, the pricing is actually very affordable, and I can show you what the model is. It's very affordable, and then if you strategically think about, so we started with some leftover user-lose money we had in accessibility, because like things like tables that can be really difficult in Canvas, with City Labs it automatically makes them accessible. There's just so many parts of it that meet the accessibility needs. We started with that, but then if we go into some of these programs that have Perkins money, we'll be able to sustain potentially with using, because it's a yearly fee.
Did that include the multi-tool with that? Are you using that?
We got the design tools.
Okay.
It includes multiple.
And tools. Okay, that's a cool one because it can do the bulk due date change on one page within.
Yes, that's a feature. We haven't started the workshops yet, but one of the features that faculty will love is you can have one page where you change all your Canvas due dates at once without having to go into the individual assignments. And if all your assignments are always due on Saturday at midnight, you can just say all of them Saturday at midnight and you're done.
You can change what?
Due dates. So instead of right now, we have to go into individual assignments, or, you know, there are some scripts out there in the community on how to do it, but it's still kind of complicated. This opens up one page and you can either change them, or if, like, my assignments are all due on the same day and time.
Sort of like angels.
Great.
Thank you. Any other volunteers? Okay, we're going to go to my list then.
This is Kathy online. Can you hear me?
Yeah, great.
I raised my hand, but maybe that's not really.
Sorry, I was adjusting mic volumes and trying to watch Zoom at the same time. Go. I can hear you.
I just was going to share that it seems like we had a successful go live with CTC Link last week. I'm fully expecting to receive a paycheck.
What's that like? It's actually really good news.
Yeah.
That is great news.
All our pain and suffering has paid off.
Indeed. Thanks for sharing.
There's hope for everyone, is my big message.
I know you're online and you're brand new, but first on our list that's going to share an update for us, I'm going to look to Centralia. Centralia, give us a quick college update, if you will.
Well, I'm not exactly sure what you'd want for an update. We're pretty new. We've started work going towards guided pathways, and we're also eLearning here is working with our assessment committee to improve our assessment projects based upon some recommendations from our 7-year accreditation meeting last year. So, or actually 2 years ago now. So that's probably the only thing I have right now.
No, that's good, great. And for the new folks, but also for the rest of us, part of the reason we do this is, you know, we've scaled it back from having everyone share, but part of the reason we do this is to drive some conversation. So for instance, Christy shared something that multiple people had questions on. And so there's no necessarily guidelines on what you should or shouldn't share, but anything that's kind of going on that's significant to you, and it might just be head nods in the room, or it might drive some discussion. Thanks for sharing. Okay, next on the list was Everett. Do we have a representative from Everett available? Oh yes, that's Heather, that's right. Yeah, and that was by accident.
All right. So as I mentioned, of course, I'm new. We have a new Dean of Arts and Learning Resources. She's been there about 2 months. We have a new president that's been there for about 4 months. We have an interim VP of instruction. So there's a lot of new going on at Everett. The VP position is going to be split into academic affairs and student affairs. So they're recruiting for that right now. So it's an interesting time with just everybody kind of figuring out who is new, what the plans are going forward. As far as e-learning, we are also responsible for Starfish. The Connect features have been rolling since before I got there, sometime in the summer or early in fall, and Degree Planner is supposed to be available by spring. So I'm just starting to understand what exactly that means and all the planning that is involved when getting those things running. It doesn't seem to be quite as smooth as people predicted it would be.
But yeah, so we're going forward on that. And then as far as the online learning side, really looking at expanding our online programming and just putting together some kind of policies and procedures that haven't really been there before around, training, around exam proctoring, around hybrid courses. It sounds like these are all things you've been discussing here. So I'm going to probably be asking lots of questions, feedback on that, but that's where we're at right now.
That's great. You're in the right place. A lot of helpful folks here. Okay, and last but not least on my list was South Seattle College. Do we have Sarah here? We're going to look at the attendance real quick. No one gets away. Okay, my first alternate was Bellevue.
Okay, good morning. So Bellevue is now settling down. We have a provost, new president, new VPs in place, so everything looks good there. The e-learning department still will be moving again under new dean. Vivian McClendon moved on to Houston, so now they have an associate dean for the library position that will be opened up, and then e-learning, the library, academic success center, and RISE, which is research, innovation, service, and experiential learning. So all those will come under a new dean. So that will happen by winter quarter. I like that because there'll be more interaction with the other groups on campus too. XR Lab, that's moving ahead, exciting things coming along. We have a lot of faculty involvement in that. XR Lab does report to e-learning, so a lot of energy is right now directed to the XR Lab. James Regal from Australia will be visiting again for the next 3 months. He'll be here in December. So if any of you want him to come over and show a demo, or you're invited, at Bellevue to take a look at the cool equipment we have. We have about 20 headsets or more now for VR. Canvas training was always, for faculty, was always with e-learning. Done? Just giving you a thumbs up. Oh, okay. And student training was with ITS, and now it's moved to e-learning, which I'm really happy about. It should be in one place. Because of the online piece, we always did an online session. This past fall quarter, we had 7 sessions with 200 plus students move through. So we'll be continuing with face-to-face trainings and the online. And the last one is I need feedback from other colleges about Canvas roles and permissions, because we are still into the old IT where they wanted the Canvas admin position with them, but everything else is in e-learning, and that's kind of hard. I would like the Canvas admin to reside in e-learning. So I have a survey ready. It's moving through the provost. She'll check everything, and then I'll send it out to the colleges to see where the admin role resides.
Great. Yeah, I'd be happy to respond.
Okay.
Before we move on from college updates, does anyone else have anything they'd like to share? Anyone online? Yes, Jerry has volunteered. Make sure you grab a microphone. Make sure it's green.
Green means go. It's flashing green.
It's good.
So we are in the process of piloting Hypothesis. We have 2 teachers who are interested, one very interested in using it a lot, and we're looking to get another few teachers so we can do a pilot. Our virtual campus committee is being repurposed as a work group to the Student Success and Leadership Committee, which we don't know exactly what's going to happen because they're meeting in about a week. But I think that's probably going to be a good thing because we'll actually sort of be an official part of something rather than just a bunch of crazy people sitting around talking about e-learning. And we had 6 faculty who went to Northwest eLearning in Bend, which usually I have a hard time getting 1 or 2 to go to anything. So that was nice.
Okay.
I can give updates from Skagit Valley College, and that's class there. So at Skagit Valley College, we had the accessibility. We had a phone call from the Department of Education, and they told us that our website is being investigated for accessibility compliance. So our public website is being now reviewed. And the good news is that Canvas is not one of the sites they will be investigating. So that makes life a little bit easier. The second thing I would like to report on, we are implementing learning outcomes, GENED, program level outcomes, and course-specific level outcomes. And so we do track those outcomes in Canvas and then export into external database. And that database is linked to Tableau. And from there, we are able to track how students are meeting them, and we can match the information we have with the student demographics like gender, major programs, grades, things like that. So we have developed a learning outcome achievement dashboard, which I will be happy to share with the group sometime in the near future, which shows how we are beautifully tracking that.
Thank you. I would love to see that. Any other volunteers before moving on? Yeah, Mark.
Actually, hi, this is Mark from Highland. I wanted to ask a little bit more about the spot check of your website. What's by the OCR? What's the story with that?
No.
Could you share a little bit more about the spot check of your website by OCR?
Clover.
Sorry?
Can you share more about the spot check on your website?
Which one? You mean the learning outcomes? Which project?
The OCR review of your college website.
The OCR review of your college website.
Yes. Once the report is available, yes. But at this point, we don't have the report. Does that make sense?
Yeah, did they just pick your guys out of a hat? Or like, how did they decide that Skagit got the dubious honor?
I see. Okay. So the Department of Education said that they picked over 700 colleges, and our college was one of them. So we don't know for sure how those 700 colleges were selected. I don't know if it was a random selection or if they had a criteria they went with. We don't know. They did not explain that to us. But what they made it clear was that it wasn't because of a complaint from a student or staff. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that helps. So it sounds like it's kind of like our Department of Ed review of our online. We have no idea why they picked us for that. And it sounds like the same thing. Like, it's just not clear why Skagit got the honor.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
we had an OCR in Spokane review as well, but it wasn't website specific. They looked at website, but they looked at a lot of other things. They came on campus. And we got a similar response in terms of why. It was just because we haven't been here for a long time.
And was that specifically around technology, or was that just just disability in general?
Yeah, it was not specific to technology. They looked at it was pretty holistic. Chrissy.
For us, they said specifically that they will be focusing on our public website, and they gave us, through the phone call, they gave us a list of things they will be looking for, like alternative text to make sure that all videos have captions, to make sure that titles are meaningful, links are working, things like that. But they did not talk about like the software we are using. They just want to focus on the public website. So as you can imagine, we have hundreds and hundreds of PDFs that need to be accessible now. We have forms, probably, which we have to work on. So there's a lot of work to do.
So we'll be talking about this tomorrow more, but just a brief plug so we can be brainstorming. After some of the lawsuit action we saw this summer, I reached out to the Office of Civil Rights. I found a search that you can do online to look at where complaints have been, found a very helpful person who helped me weed out if it's curb cuts or something we don't have anything to do with. And in our system right now, currently there are 6 active investigations specifically related to online learning. They helped me with my wording to do FOIA requests. That I'm going to be able to get at least the complaint to see what the student issues were. And as I receive those, I will share them with those schools privately. I don't want to feel like we're publicly shaming anybody, but it will give us some information, and it's just good for us to know that things are happening in our system, and we need to work together to move farther faster. And I'm going to ask for some help on that tomorrow.
That's helpful. Thank you. I think there's a comment online. I think, yeah. Could you share the nature of the complaints with the rest of us, please? Without disclosing school, sorry.
The only information I have so far is they looked on their side enough to let me know it was related to online learning. As I get the details from the FOIA responses, I will share those out with those schools. But they went far enough, there's only so much they can say over the phone, but they went far enough to, like, for instance, one of our campuses has a high school, and it was high school related, not college related, so I didn't FOIA that one. It was a whole different 504 issue. But so they really helped me weed out what is actually something that would impact us. And they're going to give me as many documents as they're allowed to give us. And I'll share more as I get those requests. And thank you, Martin, for approving the paying per page to do the FOIA thing.
Jeannie says great, thank you. Okay, let's move on to our next section. We'll have council and commission reports. And if you are providing a council and commission report, I would ask that you just, for our new folks, as well as a reminder for our existing folks, if you could just briefly talk about the council or commission you're giving a report for, and kind of explain in 30 seconds or less their relationship to ELC. So we'll start with you, Sarah.
There we go. I'm Sarah Griffith. I don't know how to use a microphone. Turn it around. No. Gosh, Chris. Really impressing the new folks here right now. Really impressing you guys. I'm the past chair, so I used to lead this thing, which was, anyways. I visit the Instruction Commission, which is all vice presidents of instruction, and that's my duty as the past chair. So Patrick will take that over in like 2 more visits. 2 more meetings. And basically they're our governing body, like we report to them. Is there anything else? I'm looking at Mark as the past chair. Is there anything else I really need to say about the Instruction Commission? VPIs. Yeah, they govern us.
Yes, I mean, for the folks who are new, I guess just a broader picture that, like an org chart in your own college, where there's like a president and then a bunch of vice presidents and then a bunch of directors and so on. The system has groups like this one for many different populations, and so there's a group of presidents and they meet like every month, and then there's all the vice presidents have their own. So vice presidents of student services all meet, vice presidents of instruction all meet. So we are underneath the vice presidents of instruction. So just think org chart, and then think like every big box on your college's org chart has council or commission. And our level, it's councils. At the vice president level, it's commissions. I don't know what the presidents are called. Presidents.
Yeah, they're above the law. So this was my first time going. I missed the summer meeting, and I think everybody else missed the summer meeting too, basically. So no councils were represented at the summer meeting. And this was my first time, so it's a little bit rough. The notes that I was taking, I wasn't exactly sure what I was supposed to make note of. So I tried to bring the things that I think we will think are important. So some of the colleges are doing guided pathways, and they had a discussion about that. On January 15th, there's a launch event for all colleges, and it's in Kitsap at the Kitsap Convention Center. And it's about the Guided Pathways Student Success Institute. So if you want to learn more about that, I would talk to your Vice President of Instruction and see who's attending that. I bolded my stuff here. So OER, they're doing a push for OER because I'm not sure, this was news to me, but I'm out of it a little bit more. Running Start, there's some legislature going through about funding for Running Start. The first year, which is what we're in right now, no changes. Year 2, the high schools are still paying for their students. Year 3, the college takes on all of the fees associated with Running Start. Year 4, the colleges pick up all fees and the cost of all textbooks, including possibly transportation. Yeah. So that was an interesting discussion. Yeah. I think it is. I couldn't quite get, at least some of it's passed. So that was an update from Carly from the state board. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure there's at least one person in the legislature who's really pushing to get it passed. And I think we're in the first year right now, so I think it is passed. So in 4 years, we're going to be hurting to pay for that. So there is a push for OER. It is taken on a really, frantic feeling, like, why aren't we doing more OER? So you might at your colleges be getting more of a push, if it's not already there, about OER, since we don't want to pay for textbooks. So, yep, that was the big bomb drop. I mean, yeah. So Christy has a question or a comment. I don't have
The Olympic College president has already sent out a message to everyone that we've got to think about OER for this reason. We know that's not the reason to think about OER, but we got a college-wide email.
Oh, Dale.
Sorry for those online. Well, at Olympic, we've already had a college-wide email with the president specifically saying this announcement, so it must have passed, and that OER is potentially the solution. Not why we would want to promote OER, but we'll be ready.
Yeah. Can you hear me? No?
Yep.
Okay. I just want to mention it's also brought up at the most recent board meeting at TCC, and OER was also mentioned. So job security for us, and yeah, especially during a budget crunch.
Yeah. There was also discussion about, so the Instruction Commission is still working on their goals. FYI, they've made a lot of changes, so we need to update our goals as well. But the goals that they're working on, they're making it a 3-year plan, it sounds like, so I think we should follow suit. Just make ours a 3-year plan that matches. And one of the things that they were talking about was giving funding, finding grants for people to create OER, and really promoting entire programs creating OER for their entire department, their entire program. So maybe finding, money for that. And IC was 100% on board with that. So that is a good thing. Also FAFSA is going to be required for students to graduate high school, which was interesting. Yeah. So another thing through legislature that's going. Yeah, so there's some legislature being pushed through that would require all high school students to apply for the FAFSA before they graduate. And it would be required for them to graduate. Yeah. Let's see. Right now, students are often barred from receiving transcripts because they have fees or fines. And Carly said that somebody was proposing that those fees get wiped through legislation. So that might be nice. So people, low-income students who can't afford to pay these fees and fines would still get their transcripts. So, and I think those were the major things. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next up is LLC. And Ariana's going to do it, and I think she's online. Take it away.
Oh, yes, I'm here. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Ariana. For the new folks, Ariana Bates. I'm the Dean of the Library eLearning Teaching and Learning Center, Student Media Center at North Seattle College, and I'm currently serving as the chair of the LLC. So the LLC, like the ELC, is one of the councils that reports to the Instruction Commission. At our fall meeting, I'll just share some of what I consider to have been the highlights of what we accomplished, or at least thought about. We completed our work plan to the level of working copy, with the intention that it can be flexible as needed. I'm posting it into the chat for the curious. And we worked on mapping we massaged it down to 3 goals, and then we're intentional about mapping our objectives to the objectives of the working IC work plan, which, as was already mentioned, is still in draft form, but we're trying to keep as much in sync as possible. So our 3 goals are to prioritize EDI by identifying gaps and focusing on the development of library administrators, faculty, staff, and library systems. Have a couple of objectives under that. Our second goal is to improve student access and equity with library resources, instruction, and services, with a couple of objectives to make that happen. And the third goal is to increase student access to resources to promote equity. And again, there's about 3 objectives under that one that are mapped to objectives in the IC work plan. A second thing that we did was we invited the vice chair and the chair of the newly formed Chief Diversity Officers Commission to our meeting to talk with us about their vision and plans. And they shared with us another thing that I will put into the chat, which is the 2019 SBCTC System Vision Statement. So that was useful to hear about. There's that. And in the spirit of our first goal, the LLC is planning to do professional development at all of our meetings, with the exception possibly of winter because it's online and shorter, shorter being the emphasized part. But so at fall, we spent about an hour discussing some articles that we had selected ahead of time, having to do with equity in libraries, recruiting. One of the articles was on accessibility, and the intention being for us as leaders in the libraries to find ways to be mindful about these issues and incorporate them into the way that we run our areas. Let's see, what else did we do that was of note? We spent some time talking about the lawsuits in Los Angeles around inaccessible databases, just to bring ourselves up to speed with what's going on with that, and try to start thinking about what more we can do about making sure that vendors are making databases accessible. And oh, I did want to mention that part of the work of doing those discussions around the articles involved kind of background collaboration with, in my case, with, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, that was fun, doing that background collaboration. And I would say that those are the highlights of what we did at our meeting in fall. Tim, if you have anything to add, feel free. Oh, and I found my train of thought. It was enjoyable to work with Dawn on getting ready to do the jigsaw discussion of the articles. If you're there, Dawn, that's a shout out to you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being online. Tim, did you have anything to add? Tim shakes his head. Thank you. Brandy in ITC, are you online? Have an update? The online folks are saying no.
You guys went away.
Test 1, test 2. Test 1, test 2.
There you go. We got you again.
Great. ITC update.
Well, that would be me. To be honest, I'm skimming through the notes right now. I was out of town for ITC and didn't attend their meeting. Looking through the notes, one of the things I'm seeing is that an RFQ was issued for Zoom services. The note says, received a very favorable pricing from the apparent successful bidder, and contract negotiations are ongoing. What that means, I don't know. Apparently it was an email discussion, and there are still a lot of licenses available. They're only using 20 to 25% of the current licenses right now. So if you need more, talk to your IT people. Hold on, there was another note that I saw that looked important for us. Scrolling. They're working with their committees, commissions, and task force representatives. What are the commitments? There's several groups out there that have no online participation options. And if the ITC rep to us is on site, you can pipe up at any time too. That's everything I'm seeing, just skimming through the notes right now. I had Brian send me. And for the new people, my name's Brandy Long. I am the Cascadia eLearning Director. And I was assigned to be the ITC rep because my IT person was the president at the time.
And ITC is the Information Technology Commission. Quick question, Brandy. You mentioned more licenses being available and to contact our IT folks at Spokane. eLearning manages our licenses. So is it the state board that we contact for more, or who's our contact there? I think was it Ken? Yeah. I think it was Ken. I just wanted to make sure that was the right person if we know.
Scrolling back to that note, it just said contact for more licenses. That we're currently only using 20 to 25% of the licenses. Ken. K-E-N-E.
Okay.
Ken Mead, N-E-I-D.
Okay, that's who I thought it was. And I'll keep speaking here just for a second because it sounds like my mic was having some trouble. Online, are you hearing okay?
You are kind of fuzzy, Patrick. I'll agree with Kathy.
Okay. Yeah. Is this any better? Nope. Test 1, test 2, test 1.
Nah, that's worse. Ow. You picked up a squeal.
Test 1, test 2.
Now you're quiet.
Well, we'll have a break shortly. We'll get it fixed. Yeah. Okay. I can switch mics for the meantime.
Yeah, don't use that one. That was painful. Ooh, nice sound there.
Okay. Next up, CEC. Aaron or Amy?
Hi, this is Amy Rovner from Shoreline. I'm filling in for Anne. So the CEC is the Continuing Education Council, and I don't really know that much about it, so I'm just the messenger here. They did have their quarterly meeting at Shoreline in October, and it went really well. Campus CE is the winning vendor for the continuing education module in CTC Link, and they did come to that meeting and gave a demo and answer questions. There's a common process workshop on continuing ed on November 19th to the 21st, where common CE processes for CTC Link will be agreed upon by sister colleges. We've hired Joe Chapa as our CTC Link. It says OCPM. I'm assuming that means on-campus program project manager. I'm not really sure what his title is, but at Shoreline, we've hired Joe Chapa, and he and Ann did a workshop on change management and CTC Link with the Continuing Ed Council, and that was received well. And then I personally ran a session on Canvas Basics for this group because they're pretty low tech, and they decided to use Canvas as like the information sharing repository. So just teaching them how to add documents and such, because they were sending everything to Anne to have her upload it. So yeah, so we taught them some stuff about this. That's all I know.
Thank you for sharing. Our representative came back and spoke very highly of you in the Buckford area. Really great experience.
Hey guys, that's the dead mic.
This was a different one.
Now that one you sounded like you were going in and out of tunnels.
Okay, we'll go back to the original.
Better.
I'll just switch to the, I don't know. I need a break to fix this.
I'm not talking in the tech section.
Sorry.
And then we'll take a break. So
I think I saw Martin online for an ELC treasure report. You there, Martin?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So a couple of things for the treasury report. So our current balances, we have current ELC balance is $15,436.40. The WAC balance is unchanged, $12,886.02. So a total balance right now of $28,322.42. Thank you all for paying your membership fees. We have just a few outstanding fees due, so I'll just note those unless they have come in the last couple of days. So I've got Bates, Centralia. I've been talking with Grays Harbor, Green River, and Wenatchee Valley are the colleges I don't have fees from. If you think you've paid and I don't know about it, please let me know. But doing pretty well as far as getting the fees in. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the instructional designer retreat. So to the best of my knowledge, we spent I think we underspent. This is, and we may want to get a kind of combination of Vicky and Kathy to kind of weigh in on this, but it looks like because the ELC summer meeting and the ID retreat were combined, we ended up getting a combined invoice for that, and I wasn't able to parse that out. But talking with Kathy, it looks like we underspent the budget for the ELC meeting at Peninsula by a few $100s. So it looks like we spent about $1,100 or a little more than $1,100 out of $1,600. For the ID retreat, we spent almost the entire budget. However, as Kathy Chatfield mentioned, we had about $400 worth of books subsidized by the state board. So in fact, the total expenses for the ID retreat were more like $1,400. If the retreat is held again in this following summer, so summer of 2020, and if the host college spends the budgeted amount for the ELC meeting, we would probably end up overspending our budget. So one thing we may want to think about potentially is increasing the ID retreat budget to $1,500 based on the expenses we had this past summer. And it may be that we want to charge, and this would be something for the council to think about, but we may want to think about how we find those expenses, or we may want to think of how we reduce expenses for that. But I think the food alone, according to Kathy, was about $800 for the ID retreat, and that didn't include any materials or the books like I was mentioning.
I think maybe someone who's closer to the ID retreat can speak up, but my understanding was that the plan was to reuse the text. Of course, there might be some new people that don't have it, but I think they're going to use the same text. Is that true?
I don't know that. Maybe Kathy could speak to this. Kathy, if she's on.
This is Kathy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, that would be a one-year solution. So then the question just goes to if we want to look at a budget from a budget amount year to year. I goofed because I just simply didn't understand meal cost, and so when we approached the amount for the budget to begin with, I just did not realize that food was going to be as much as it was. And I don't know what it turned out to be in full. And like Martin says, the invoices were all combined. So that's kind of a tricky thing. We are now beginning to get noticed by other entities in the state, like four-year institutions, and I'm being approached by them and asked if their instructional designers can join us. And it feels to me like it wouldn't be appropriate for our ELC council to subsidize all of that, in which case it's probably worth it to have a conversation about if there's a small fee that's associated with attendance or something like that. And we've been avoiding that in the past to try to not discourage, people not being able to attend. So it's a tricky situation all the way around.
We can put that on the back end of the agenda tomorrow, that discussion, and if we don't have time for it, we can push it to the next meeting, but I think that makes sense as an agenda item to discuss pricing for the ID retreat.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Martin, did you have other information to add?
I think that's all unless there are questions. If you want to find the current balances, you can find those on the ELC website under budget, and you can find the balances for on the spreadsheet. You can find the tabs for the current ELC budget balance and for the WAC balance. But I think that's all.
Martin, once again, thank you for that work. I know that's a tough job, and it's never fun to be the person trying to collect the money from folks. So thank you for doing that. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we have a break, so let's rejoin at 11:25. We'll start up again at 11:25. Thank you.